Hey everyone, this is Joe, and this is the very last Feedback Friday. Well, never say never, but as my plans are right now, I don't plan on doing Feedback Friday anymore. Of course, we'll still do feedback. All those details I want to talk about at the end of the episode. Right now, I just wanted to thank my 4 callers. They are, in alphabetical order, Chicago Wiz/Michael from the Dungeon Master's Handbook, Daniel from the Bandits Keep podcast, Evil Jeff from the Minions and Musings podcast, and the ever so prolific Jason from the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. All of them have great podcasts. I recommend them. Links are in the show notes. Let's get started.
Mail call from the United States of America.
Hi, you have reached the Decahedron RPG Cast feedback line. Just start talking at the sound of the tone.
Joe, Evil Jeff. Just actually listening to your Feedback Friday on a Tuesday and heard you talking about, how your podcatcher does things, downloading and so forth, and wondering how other people do it. I actually use Google Podcasts, so when I open the app, it pops up and populates, and then it downloads. No, excuse me, it doesn't download. I don't download any podcast. I have it download the list of updates, and then I'll go and I'll listen to the podcast, but I don't have it automatically download anything. I don't want that on my phone automatically. I don't like it using data when I am not aware of it like that. That's just me. So I listen to it as I happen to see it. So, yeah, that's how I do things.
Hey, Joe. Daniel calling again. Although you didn't call me out specifically, I will tell you how my podcatcher works. Every time I open it on my phone, it downloads anything that's new. I guess that's a push notification. I'm not sure exactly how I set it up. It just kind of does it. I use the built-in one on the iPhone, so the Apple one. So, yeah, every time I open it up, it pops up a new one. So if there's one that's been released, I'll get it ideally right away. Although Apple doesn't always list them right away, so sometimes I don't, see it right away. But as soon as it's on Apple, from Spotify that is, then I get it. So yeah, I get some push notification.
Hey, Evil Jeff and Daniel. Thank you both for that reply. I ran you two together because it was about the same topic. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And the piece I was missing from Daniel's side, and I never thought about it, was people with unlimited data. And I don't have unlimited data. I'm very cheap for my phone plan. I only pay $25 a month, although their newest plan, you can get unlimited data for that. But anyway, yeah, I only pay $25 a month, so I don't have unlimited data. So that's why it was always set up the way it was to record early morning, to download when I'm home early morning. After this conversation, I went through my settings and took a look at things. Actually, I noticed I had been downloading around noon, and they redid the way it used to do. You used to be able to go in and say every day at whatever time, but it does have a setting where you can say, but only do it if you're connected to like Wi-Fi. And that's what I do because, again, no unlimited data. And so just today, I changed the settings to check every hour and auto download, but only if I'm connected to Wi-Fi. If I'm using the phone's data, don't do it. Again, I like my little podcatcher a lot. It's an open source one. It's called AntennaPod. It replaced Podcast Addict, which I used to use. Anyway, so thank you both for that elucidation, so to speak.
Joe and Val's Evil Jeff. Trying to save another message because I messed up the first one. Stop partway through your Feedback Friday, right after you talked back and forth about what Daniel threw down. Careers, lots of memories of that game. It was one of the first board games I remember playing with new neighbors when I moved to a new house. Backgammon, playing that, all sorts of stuff. So It was great to hear a bit more about Val, her background, things that she likes, and hear more about the two of you. So yes, and we're looking forward to this adventure podcast you're putting out later.
Hey, Evil Jeff, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm really a fan of careers. I'm going to throw the box at her and let her like take a look at the box and the rules and such. I have the 1950s edition. Like I said, it was updated every 10 years, and it's interesting to look at the different editions to see how they change with the cultures. One of the things in the 1950s version is if you're in the business career, one of the cards you can get is you got a pretty secretary, and it gives you like 50 happiness or something, which, yeah, all right. Nothing cringy about that. Yeah, enough said about that. I am also a big fan of like historical two-player abstract strategy games, as they say. And right now I'm obsessed with one called Daldos. I'm thinking about making a little board for and trying. And I'm also coming up with my own version of an abstract two-player strategy game. I don't have a name for it yet, but it's kind of it's going to be a variation of the old Tafel games that the Vikings were fond of, but it's going to be instead of being asymmetrical, it's going to be a symmetrical Tafel game. And I have some concepts of how it's going to work in my head. Giving it a little try in my head. Need to find someone to play with me to play test it to see if it works or if it sucks. But anyway, thanks for that call, Evil Jeff.
Hey, Joe. Daniel Bates, keep calling in. Hopefully it sounds okay. I'm driving. I'm not quite done with the episode, but I wanted to comment on the old dungeon thing. I think kind of the opposite of you. Obviously we won't know unless we talk to the person that actually designed the dungeon, but I believe that, and I always ran these dungeons, that if you fight a bunch of orcs in one room and there's goblins next door, they will 100% at least have a chance of hearing that ruckus, and they will come in. And that's one reason why players have to be smart about how they do that, right? You don't want to spend 10 rounds, fighting those orcs. You want to take them out as quick as possible, because they generally handle it. And again, this is just what I do and not in the rules, is I would roll either a listen check for the goblins in the next room, or possibly for every round of combat, knowing there's something close by, I'd roll a wandering monster check. Just some kind of check to say, hey, you're making noise, is something going to happen? There are some modules that I've picked up, and of course I'm driving, so if I can think of one, then I'll look it up and point it out, I'll recall back in, but that do actually spell this out and say, hey, these goblins are over here. If there's a ruckus in this room, they'll come over. But most modules don't actually say that, so I can totally see the point of view of you thinking, well, that's not what they had in mind. But I think that is what they had in mind. I don't know. I'm curious if other people will call in with comments on this. I'm not sure how many people listen to the show that run the old modules. I know a lot of people do their own homebrew. But I have run quite a bit of old modules, and I always have those goblins run in. Maybe I'm just mean.
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for that. So when I'm designing my own adventures, I design them to either be so far away that they won't hear or to run in, because that just makes most sense in my mind. I guess the counterexample to yours is there's an old Judges Guild adventure called Rat on a Stick. And it's kind of a whimsy, fun little adventure, but there's a whole lot wrong with it. And it definitely gives you the impression that the monsters are frozen in time in each room until you open the door. On the other hand, it's wandering monster tables that not only do you roll the wandering monster, but then you roll again to see what it was doing. Why is it out wandering the hall? So I like that part of it. But yeah, in the rooms thing. And I will also say that there's other adventures I've read, not by Judges Guild, and it definitely gives the impression that the world is static until the player walks in, because it will say when they come in the room, the monsters are just, serving dinner or something like that, like no matter how long they took to get in, no matter what else has been happening, once they open this door, that's when the roast is coming out of the oven, or that's when they're playing cards or whatever. So I think I'm actually willing, though, to split the difference with you and say There's a whole lot of people who wrote those old modules, and I bet it changed from person to person what way they were thinking. But yeah, as for other people who called in to chime in, nope, you were the only one. So yeah, but thanks for that, and I definitely appreciate your insight.
Hey, Jason here, just listening to episode 91. I'm paused about 14 minutes in. You just answered Daniel's call. And a couple comments about, those answers so far. As far as gambling goes, I definitely get that. I'm a pretty unlucky person. So while I would definitely play cards if we broke half table, I do appreciate the Boot Hill, the original Western role-playing game. Well, that's not true, is it? Because when we look at some of the games playing, the Western skirmish games playing over in England, I think really those fall into RPGs as well. And they arguably deserve the title of the first RPG. But that's a discussion for another day. Anyway, Boot Hill, which thankfully you've acknowledged is an RPG, has gambling rules that are just a die roll. And if you're a gambler, there are even rules that allow you to cheat by modifying that die roll. So you would easily be able to play that James Gardner character, Maverick, in Boot Hill because you're just, rolling dice. You're not having to know how to gamble, how to play those card games. The other comment, so maybe we should play Boot Hill sometime. The other comment is about puzzles. And I hear what you're saying. You like to challenge the player and make the player think a little bit and feel some satisfaction over puzzles. But have you experienced in the past, because I've done this myself, where I put puzzles in front of the characters, put puzzles in the game, and the players just run into a wall and they can't figure it out. And at that point, the game, grinds to a stop and it's not fun. And I end up just giving them the solution so they can move on because unfortunately, they didn't have to move on. They could have gone back, but they were exploring a tower. And they couldn't have got further in the tower without unlocking, this door to get to the next level. And, it would have been kind of anticlimactic if they just had to leave and not finish the tower. So we let them so I just kind of gave them the solution. It was one of those things where it was the solution, this lock was the same as one that they solved previously. And, they just didn't put that together. And it's not their fault. No doubt part of that's on me as the GM to explain it, but it's really frustrating when you present a puzzle and they're not getting it, right? So how do you handle that? Maybe an episode on puzzles in games would be useful. Okay, that's a lot of talking from me, and I still have about half the episode to go, so let me get back to the episode.
Hey, Jason, thanks for that call. I think what we could safely say is that Boot Hill was the first commercially available Western role-playing game. How's that? As for the comments about gambling rules, yeah, I'm glad that you agree with me. And I'm glad that you like the way that Boot Hill does it. I would also throw out the way that GURPS does it, which is just having a separate gambling skill. And that way, if you want to make that Brett Maverick character, then you just, put your points into gambling. Or likewise, cliche, you would just say, vagabond gambler. In Risus, you would just give yourself a cliche as a vagabond gambler. And you could do it that way. The one thing you didn't address, though, is what about cribbage? Am I the only cribbage fan out here? Anyway, as for your last comment about puzzles being a dead end, I don't think I need a full episode because I'm going to say that, and this isn't a slam on you, I'm kind of acknowledging what you said. If you make it so that solving the puzzle is necessary to continue the adventure, then that is just bad adventure design. Again, don't take that as a slam, right? We all have to learn. I use puzzles and secret doors because that's another thing when, you can't continue with the adventure until you find the secret door. I hate that. And traps. All of them I use kind of the same way. It's never something you have to get past, with one exception. I'll talk about that in a second. It's never something you have to get past. It's something that you can use, and if you solve the puzzle, if you get through the trap, if you find the secret door, it's not what you had to do, but maybe that opens up a treasure room that you wouldn't have otherwise found, and you get access to treasure that you wouldn't have gotten. Maybe you find a shortcut that leads you to another, to another part of the dungeon, the tower, the whatever, but quicker than the long way around. Stuff like that. Solving it is a reward to the player. It is not a necessity. The exceptions I'm going to talk about, and I said one exception, I actually have two. I have a dungeon entrance. I've talked about it before, although I don't think it was on my podcast. I think it was on a feedback to somebody else. And in fact, it might have even been Daniel, because they were bad talking Grimtooth's traps. And I said one that works really well. And I use that trap at the entrance of one of my dungeons because it's really obvious. Even if you trigger the trap, okay, you might lose a character or two, but when you have a full party again, you're going to know right away what to do and how to proceed. The second exception is I have this other dungeon called Cryon's Maze, and there is a puzzle in the center of that that will... Oh, I have three exceptions. Dang it. But I mean, that one's sort of self-solving too. Even if the players don't get it, they'll eventually get it. But pretty much that's just another short circuit type thing. And that's neither I guess it's a puzzle. That puzzle just gives access to different parts of the dungeon. You actually don't have to solve it because it is simultaneously a puzzle and a trap, because it lures you with this vision of a treasure room, but it's very difficult to get to. But there you go. And then I have this other one. I wrote a blog post about it that, oh no, you know what? That's the same dungeon. So never mind. There's only two exceptions. Yeah. But again, it's the same thing. It's not so you can continue. It is so you can find riches easier. Yeah, thanks for that call, Jason.
Hey, Jason here. Just finished episode 91. Man, I wish I could sleep in at 5:30 in the morning. Anyhow, so I'm leaving you this message in response to the second half of the episode. As far as combat and the way it's shown and things like the Hobbit, that's why I really prefer the Rankin and Bass Hobbit to Peter Jackson's Hobbit. I think Rankin and Bass's Hobbit cartoon is, if you're going to have a moving picture Hobbit, that's the way to go. As far as dynamic NPCs go, the idea that, creatures in an adjacent room would hear a combat and come a running, yeah, 100%, and I do that. And, I think I was influenced to some degree by some of the early Top Secret modules, because they talk in there about, if so-and-so didn't do this or this or this, they'll be sitting in this room. But if they're here and they hear this, then they'll move on to join the combat. And so even the way they were written, you might encounter NPCs at different areas in that game, and they'll have different reactions. And so it's kind of implied that they were, alive and moving around. And so you might not encounter them in the room that they're nominally in, right? So I always really liked that. It was kind of influenced by that early on. The last comment is going to be, you asked how we manage our podcasts. So I don't automatically download anything. I have everything set for me to manually download it, and I just check it once or twice a day, and if something new pops up before I go to work. So typically I'll leave for work between 4 a.m. and, usually 3:30 and 4 a.m. I'll leave for work. 4 a.m. if I'm running late. And so I'll check once in the morning before I leave. I may check again during the day or on the way home or something like that, or when I get home that night. But it just depends. If I'm off that day, I may check, a couple times a day. But I just check throughout the day and download as I go. If I see somebody's posted something, then I'll hop on, download it, and listen next time I'm in the car or next time I have a chance. So I'm pretty on top of it. I don't have any of it running on autopilot.
Okay, that was very wordy of me, so I'll let you go. Great job, by the way. As always, enjoying your show, and I will talk to you soon.
Hey, Jason, you made a liar on me there twice. I thought I covered all the podcatcher voicemails up front, and then I just told Daniel that no one else replied about the monsters come running thing. But okay, let me just go over with the notes I wrote down. Okay, sleeping in. You wish you could sleep to till 5:30. Well, you can. You just can't stay employed if you do. The Hobbit. Peter Jackson's The Hobbit. You know, first of all, I think I'm the only one that liked the first movie. A lot of people put that one down. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it told a story. I thought it ended at an okay place. I didn't see the need for there to be 3 movies. You know, originally they said, it's going to be 2 movies. I think that would have worked. And I think if they did 2 movies, then the whole third movie, which the entire movie is the Battle of the Five Armies. I think that would have been condensed exactly like it is in the book. Bilbo passes out. He wakes up. They tell him the details. I think I would have been happy with that. I haven't seen the Ranking a Bass one in forever, so I can't tell you my feelings on it. It doesn't live in my memory. As for the monsters coming running, you actually echoed a whole lot of the same points that Daniel did. And I don't think I have anything new to add other than what I already said to Daniel. So other than to say thanks for that. And as for the podcatcher thing, I'm guessing what I thought was a normal way to do it. And maybe it's the old way to do it, because I've been listening to podcasts since 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. I'm stopping to think if I'm telling the truth there. No, that's right. Because I started working for the company I am now in 2005. And before that, I had a temporary job, and I used to get them my iPod, an iPod Nano, to listen to while I was working. Yeah, so I guess I just assumed everyone does it the same way, which in my mind is the right way, right? Because you don't have to manage it. When there's something available, it comes to you automatically. It's like a blog. I've always wanted to write a blog post about the right way to read a blog. And the right way to read a blog is to use an RSS reader, because that way the computer checks for you every day and it tells you when there's a new blog post. And that way you don't have to remember to go to the site every day or every week or whatever that blog's author's schedule is. But more importantly, it frees up the blog post's author from releasing something every day, every week, whatever their schedule is. And then they can just do it when the creativity hits them and when they have something to say. And then, anyway, that's me. I know I look at the world differently. Hey, Jason, thank you for that call.
Hey, Joe and Val, Daniel calling again. I just want to clarify a little bit, because I think sometimes I leave vague messages. Number one, I actually did like the Foundation show. I think it's pretty cool. And I think you're right about seeing a book and seeing changes. I'm not talking about casting here, because I read the book a while ago and I don't remember the race or, gender of most of the characters. But I will say that in the original book series, the whole idea, and they even say this in the first season, then they don't do it, is that no individual person is the future. There's no Messiah type thing going on. And basically in the books, the Sheldon dies, I think even before they get to the first place. And they pre-recorded these bits of information based on what they believe needs to happen, as far as, the future. You need to industrialize at this point, you need to do whatever. And the book, and I understand why they're not doing this in the series, the book doesn't have a main character. Each chapter, or maybe 2 chapters of the book, is 100 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future, and it's about changes. And there's characters that come. It's almost like a series of short stories. So what they're doing in the TV show to tie it together is they're making it. I'm trying to be vague here. They're making this Messiah, this person being super important, right? And ways for them to be in the future so that they can be the person that makes these changes. And that's what I mean about the themes being different. The chosen one is such an overdone and, right, the hero with 1,000 faces, right? And I think Foundation was great because it didn't use that trope. So that's what I mean by that. So that's interesting. I mean, I am going to watch the second season. I'm kind of like you in the way of the binging. I started watching it and then I got caught up and then I was like, I'll wait till the rest comes out.
Hey, Daniel. Yeah, I knew you weren't talking about casting, but as we said, neither one of us read the book. Books? Whatever, the stories. So we couldn't comment on that. So we commented on the only thing that we could. But I will also say that, film and books are different media. And as such, they require different storytelling techniques. And what works on paper will not necessarily work on screen. Actually, it will very seldom work on screen unless it's a very linear story in the book with very few side plots and stuff like that. In fact, usually I find, in my personal opinion, the best movies are actually based on short stories because movies really can't tell a big, deep story. And a short story, is one single idea explored, and that's kind of what a movie does well. The other one thing I meant to say in that episode that I didn't is that I discovered I made a rule, let's call it a rule, back in 1984 as I was leaving home to join the service and everything. But the last movie I saw before I left was The Never-Ending Story. And I read that. I mean, I watched that just after reading the book. That's when I made my rule. When there's a book and a movie, watch the movie, then read the book. Don't do it the other way around because the movie will never live up to your expectations after having read the book. The exception that I found to this rule was Harry Potter. And I think that's just because the books weren't that well written. I mean, J.K. Rowling has made far more money from her books than I ever will in anything. But it wasn't like a masterful piece of literary fiction. It was very to the point. And to the point that I only read the first book and I didn't bother reading the others because I was like, the movie's good enough. I don't need to read this. So, that's that. Thanks for that call, Daniel. Oh, and I'm going to point out that we have a call from Michael coming up, also about Foundation, but we're going to listen to your other call first.
The other thing, I wasn't necessarily calling you old. I mean, I'm old. I think it's just that I'm around a lot of younger people because my work, right? So I'm around like a lot of actors and models and such. So, and I think actors fall into that category are already being into that weird stuff. So maybe that's, again, it's just a confirmation bias being around people that are just like that. But I've known people my whole life for the most part. I mean, I was very fortunate like that. I often say this to people, it's like you see in movies, people like nerd, but I never in my life experienced that. And I am probably one of the biggest nerds I know. And if I know myself. Anyways, thanks so much for answering my question. And I will listen. I'll watch season 2. I got to just go into it like knowing they've changed the themes, and it's just a cool space show because I am enjoying it for sure. I like the way it's, a lot of these shows, it's on Disney, right? A lot of these Disney, not Disney, Apple. A lot of these shows are just beautifully shot, and for that alone, it's worth watching it. Anyways, talk to you soon.
Hey, Daniel, thanks for that one. Yeah, I didn't think you were calling us old at all. I did that very tongue-in-cheek, very much as a joke, because it was just a way to twist what you said just a little bit. Hey, you mentioned actors. I'm not exactly sure what you do for your daytime job, but actors, huh? So we mentioned Lauren a couple times. Actually, she called in once. Did she call in or did she send it as an email? Because when I did the review of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, I said that Venger was voiced by, what's his name? Peter Cullen, was it? Anyway, who also, she called in to say he was the voice of Optimus Prime and of Eeyore. And so, whatever. She actually graduated from college just a couple of years ago with a degree in, she's a performance arts major. And, right after college, she had this internship all lined up and everything. She was going to graduate in like May of 2020 and had this internship lined up to go. And of course, you heard the punchline right there, 2020. So they all got sent home from school around April. Oh, and she had a major role in what play were they going to do? It was a musical because she's really a musical theater major. It's not important. So they got sent home because of COVID, and so the internship got canceled and everything. And yeah, now she's not doing anything performance arts related, and I would love to figure out a way to make that happen for her. No, I'm not saying that you can do anything. I'm not asking for a favor. I guess I'm just talking out loud and being a little wistful. Yep. The other thing he said was that the Apple series look great. So I will say that Foundation does look amazing, has this wonderful aesthetic. It is space opera in the true sense, right? We have the grand space empire, but not only that, we have very operatic type costumes, I feel at least. You know, when you look at Day's costume, when you look at what's her name, whose name just flew out of my head, you know, his assistant woman there. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers. You know who I mean. You know, her costume is very operatic. Yeah, it's awesome. They have a strong vibe there. I felt that Severance had it wasn't beautiful by any means, but it wasn't supposed to be, right? It had a distinct aesthetic, and they told visually the story that they were trying to tell through very austere, not austere, very, actually they kind of told it in grays, right? Like solid blocks of gray. Oh, anyway, that was very good. The Ted Lasso one, what was that called? Oh, was it called Ted Lasso maybe? That one didn't strike me as particularly awesome visually in any way. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying it was horrible. I'm saying that's not what stood out to me. And sometimes I wonder if the art shouldn't stand out like that. If it starts to get in the story when it stands out, I don't know. So I've said before that my wife is Scottish, Val. I can call her Val now because she's been on the show a couple times. She likes the movie Braveheart, which, okay. I, on the other hand, love the movie Rob Roy. And it's not because the story is amazing, and it's not because the acting is the best thing ever, but just to look at that movie, it is a gorgeous movie, shot for shot. Oh, it is a wonderfully gorgeous movie. And she and I disagree about that all the time. Anyway, I don't know what any of this has to do with gaming, but yeah, thanks for the call, Daniel.
It's Mike, also known as Chicago is. Just listening to your episode 93, Feedback Friday, and you guys were talking about Foundation in response to Daniel's call-in about how he's finding the break from the book to be a hard hurdle to cross. I understand that completely. I'm a big fan of the book, but I also picked up very early on that this is not a faithful reproduction, and I mean, we've got other movies and other series coming out right now that do attempt that, like certainly the Dune series that's also on Apple, fairly consistent and close to the books. What I like about the Foundation is that they're inspired by, they're taking certain things, but they're kind of exploring other options, and they're breaking apart from Asimov's idea of a millennia spanning view and weaving the story into 3 or 4 people and following them. And honestly, maybe this makes me a heretic, I actually think that's the right way to go. one of the things that can be hard and unapproachable about a series like Foundation is that it is kind of standoffish, or that you have to form different attachments to, spoilers, to the folks at the time when Asimov dives into, the history again, and, the different crises, and the different protagonists that are alive at those various points of history. But I think that would be hard, perhaps, for a TV audience that's clearly more used to different types of fare and more character focused fare. It might be hard to make those changes, and so I think they wanted to take these 4 people and weave their stories throughout and focus in it, and I like that. And yeah, there are some major changes, but I don't know. I've often said I'm like the worst consumer in the world because I'm very easily amused. If you can entertain me for a couple hours, I'll watch a thing. And usually, like my RPGs, I'm pretty good. I got what I want and I like it. And I like the Foundation series. I like for what it is. I don't have to have it be back to the book, because you know what? If I want to enjoy the books, I'll go read the books. All right. Great hearing from you guys. Looking forward to more, and game on.
Hey, Michael, thanks for that call. There's not a lot for me to say to that I didn't already say to Daniel's call. The main theme there is that I would say is that, again, books and movies and TV shows are all different media, and they require different types of storytelling. Like you, I agree that I am enjoying this series. Like I said, I can't compare it to the book, so I don't know anything about that. I just know I like the series. You said something about Doom? There's a Doom series on Apple? ? I don't know about this one. Right now we're watching one called Silo. We're only a couple episodes in, but I'm digging on it so far. The other thing you said is it makes you the worst consumer in the world. I think that would actually make you the best consumer in the world, at least according to the people that make the stuff to be consumed. And I'm sure that the aliens in They Live would agree with me. Thanks for that call.
Hey, Jason here. I don't remember if I called for this episode or not, your feedback episode that Val guested on. As far as Daryl Hannah and heavy metal, there is the lady at the end of that movie, Tarna, is white hair. I guess that's what you're thinking of. Also, of course, Daryl Hannah was in Clan of the Sea, where she was in like the white and black makeup. So maybe that's influencing your memory. I don't know, but I'm not sure what else it might be. Star Cops. So I put a post up on the Play forums, and everybody should check out the Play forums, not necessarily my post. But Star Cop is really good. So all the episodes are up on YouTube. There is a DVD out there of them, and there is a company over there in England that makes or has made audio dramas, kind of extending the series. So check those out. Really great stuff. You have to buy the audio stuff, of course. But yeah, they're up on YouTube. I watched the first episode, really enjoyed it. I can see why you liked it, and I do plan on finishing the series when I get time. So I'm not sure if there's anything else I was supposed to respond to in this episode, but thank you for putting it up, and I look forward to your OSR October.
Hey, Jason, thanks for that call. Yeah, Daryl Hannah. So, yeah, I don't know. Was there another major adult animated film in that part of the 80s? Did maybe heavy metal make enough money that some other studio said, yes, we need to make one too? And see, it might not have been Daryl Hannah. It might have been somebody else. I'm just confusing it with Daryl Hannah. I don't know. As for the Play forums, yes, you're absolutely right. Everyone should check out the Play forums. They are at www.decahedron.com/boards. It's just your old school message boards, right? So you can create a topic and people can reply to that topic, so you can skip topics or read the ones that you want and stuff like that. And it's easier just than a never-ending scroll of text where things aren't threaded and everything. So that's why I like them. Yeah, Star Cops, thanks for finding that. I think you just said that it was made on DVD at some point, but the question would be then, was it made in Region 1 DVDs or just Region 2? Because again, British and America have different DVD regions. If it was VHS, of course, that means that it would have been a PAL VHS if it's over there and we were NTSC. So, I can only do the US formatted stuff. But yeah, definitely. Thanks for pointing out that it is available on YouTube. I checked it out and I am now on episode 2. It is as good as I remember. Although the special effects, I don't remember being quite so, let's just say so 1980s television. But that's not really a big deal for me. I kind of chuckle when they're pretending to be in 0G, but I like that they're at least trying. And I'm good at tuning that stuff out. A lot of people say they can't watch the original Star Trek because of the special effects, but I always see past that because I get wrapped up in the story, and I get what they're going for. That's the essence of what they're going for. Yeah, the Horta is a guy under a rug. Who cares? It says no kill eye. Anyway, yeah, the special effects are kind of Some of the spaceship designs, I just finished the second episode. Some of the spaceship designs reminded me very much of Battlestar Galactica. No, lies. Reminded me very much of Space 1999. They have that girder look to them, like they were made from space. So why do you need to make it look all streamlined and everything? And being Space 1999 looking, it has that kind of Jerry Anderson vibe to it. But no, he's not involved in it. But yeah, so thanks for posting that. Thanks for telling me where to find Star Cops on YouTube. If I remember, I will put a link in the show notes. Thanks again.
Hey, Jason here. Just listened to episode 94, where you and Evil Jeff talk about Risus. Great episode. You didn't bring up the death spiral. It's all good. I agree with you for the most part, Joe. Actually, I pretty much agree with Joe. This is like a normal episode where I agree with Joe, and Evil Jeff was, he was right about one thing. So we're doing pretty good. Pretty standard episode. I'm just messing with you, Evil Jeff. I enjoyed the discussion of it. And I think it is important to emphasize this can be used for a variety of games and a variety of play styles. This is, from what I understand, what S. John Ross used to playtest modules and things that he wrote for other games. Instead of everybody learning all these new systems when he was writing modules and things, they just used Risus to run through whatever he wrote. And it is, if you were stuck with just one RPG for the rest of your life and Lucky 7 wasn't on the table, it's hard to argue against Risus as a RPG that could do everything, any genre, and do what you want. I maybe would have liked a little more in-depth discussion on things like inappropriate cliches and things like that, but I realized you only had 45 minutes to talk, and who knows, maybe there'll be an encore. Maybe Evil Jeff will loosen up those purse strings, get the companion, and you guys can do a follow-up piece. Anyhow, I will talk to you later. Take care and keep up the great work.
Hey, Jason, thank you for that call. Yeah, one of the downfalls, I guess, of the way I do my reviews with the 3 good things and the 3 bad things is that things like inappropriate cliches and the death spiral kind of get lost if they're not, one of the things that somebody brought up. I keep saying, I'm going to start off the episode with an overview of the game, of how it works or whatever. And I always forget. So that's 100% on me. But yeah, I'll go over them real quick and give you my thoughts. So the inappropriate cliche rule. So normally in Risus, when you're doing a combat of some sort, you're making your roll, and say you have a level 3 of gladiator and you're fighting another gladiator who's level 4. You roll 3 dice, he rolls 4 dice. Whoever has the highest total wins. So let's say that he has the highest total. So now for the rest of the combat, instead of being gladiator 3, I go down to gladiator 2. So there's that risk right there. Am I going to do okay, if I'm only doing 3 dice? So if I'm fighting Gladiator, I can use to choose an inappropriate cliche. So fighting Gladiator, right? Gladiator is the appropriate cliche. Maybe battle-hardened veteran would be another appropriate cliche, right? But an inappropriate cliche might be something like stand-up comic. And you say, I'm going to use my stand-up comic skill against the Gladiator. I don't know. Maybe it's as like a distraction or something. Maybe you're going to tell him a joke, or maybe you're going to like build up some aggro and say, give him like a your mama joke or something, right? That would be inappropriate uses. If you win the combat, because you used an inappropriate cliche, the opponent goes down. Instead of by 1 die, they go down by 3 dice. So now instead of being a Gladiator 4, he's a Gladiator 1. So you can now slip into your normal Gladiator skill and probably wallop the heck out of him. And the examples for this are very zany. Maybe this is part of where it gets a reputation for being a zany game. But there are very definitely serious times, serious situations where inappropriate cliches could come into use. The death spiral is what I consider a feature, and what some people like Jason considers a bug, although I think I might have swayed him when we talked about this back when this podcast was first starting. But like I just said, if my Gladiator skill is 3 and I lose the round, now it's Gladiator 2. So I have even less of a chance of winning, right? He was 4, I was 3. Now it's 2 to 4. It's like, oh, crud. And let's see, the highest roll on 2 dice is going to be a 12. The average roll per die is 3.5. 3.5 times 4 is... So I have a 1 in 36 chance of getting what he'll get a little more than 50% of the time. Yeah, see, odds are definitely not in my favor if I'm Gladiator 2 versus a Gladiator 4. So that's when you're encouraged to think outside of the box. That's when you're encouraged to whip out that inappropriate cliche, and maybe like the rule that Evil Jeff liked, you pump your skill, or you double pump, where you get to count your dice as extra dice. Stuff like that. That's the death spiral. I like the death spiral. Because the death spiral tells you as a player, I'm in over my head and I need to cut bait and run. I need to get the heck out of this situation, no matter what it is. If it's a legal battle, if it's a combat, it's a whatever, it's time to throw in the towel. It's time to surrender. It's time to quit. It's time to do something, but you can't continue as is. So I think it's a feature. I think it encourages deeper role play to come up with things of the situation and stuff. So that's all I have to say about that. So thank you very much for that call, Jason.
Hey, Joe and Evil Jeff. Thanks for the overview, if you will, of Risus. It was pretty interesting. I feel like I may have picked this game up a while back, and I don't know. It seems cool. I don't think it's for me. I think if I want the most simple, basic game, which is what this basically is, I would just play the Hateful Place because I really like that game. Otherwise, I like to have a little bit more meat on my games. I'm not a huge fan of single mechanic, and I know there's 3 here, but they sound like the exact same mechanic. So it's just not the way that I like to play a game, but it sounds pretty cool. And I would probably jump in on a game, and I could even see running it as like a one-shot at a convention. It just doesn't sound like it brings anything to the table that I'm not getting from games I'm already playing. So, yeah, thanks for doing it. I definitely will grab it if I don't have it already. Actually, I probably have the old one that's 8 pages. Maybe I should hold on to that one instead of getting the new one. Because as I said, when you were describing the mechanic and stuff, it sounded familiar. I definitely do like a game that can be anything, right? You're playing Vikings, you're playing pirates, you're playing in space. That's all cool. I like that. I like the ability to do that. I like the cliches. But again, I don't think that it's adding anything to me anyways that I already have. Anyways, awesome. Thanks for doing this, and I will talk to you soon.
Hey, Daniel, thanks for that call. Well, Jason loved it. You don't like it. just goes to prove that different people like different things, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm sorry it's not your game, but I'm glad that our conversation was able to help you determine that, because that's the whole point of a review anyway, right? Personally, I love single mechanic games. And that tells me that you're not going to like Lucky 7 if I ever get it out there, because that's the whole idea behind Lucky 7 is to have a single mechanic. I like a mechanic to be simple, just one for the entire game, so you can get it in your head and you never have to look at the book again, and you just play, right? You just say what you want to do. You roll some dice. You don't even think about it. It's always the same die. It's always the same things you're looking for. Bam, bam, bam. And the part that I enjoy, the role play, the situation description, the what am I going to do, all that comes into play without worrying about the mechanics, not what's best, in terms of the game mechanics, just what should I do in doing it. But again, that's me, you're you. Nothing wrong with that. Did you say anything else in there I wanted to comment to? I don't think so. Thanks for listening. And as always, thanks for the call. Bye. And finally, the last piece of feedback is something that Evil Jeff wrote on the Play forums. That's www.decahedron.com/boards. That's just some online forums that we have set up for our podcasts. And, rather than an endless stream of text, it's old school bulletin board forums. Everything is in its own discussion group, their own threads and everything. Anyway, when we posted episode 70, no, lies. When we posted episode 74, it was character creation in Traveler. James made a Traveler character that he's going to use in an upcoming game. And we put that in the air so people could see how it goes. And then later on, I uploaded the character sheet onto the Play forums. And Evil Jeff made a comment. And his comment was, just listen to the episode. That was a good episode, and I liked hearing your house rules in Play, and it confirmed that I would do something similar, as it helps someone make the character that is tighter and have a real direction. So thank you for that comment, Evil Jeff. Like I mentioned to someone else's feedback a while back, I think my rules work rather well. I've used them for a long time. But I recently read something where somebody has treated all those skills as cascade skills. And I really like that idea. I want to give that a try. So in Traveler, a cascade skill is something like gun. When James rolled up a skill and it just said gun, then you get to pick which gun it is. Was it shotgun skill? That's the one he picked. Is it pistol? Is it laser rifle? Whatever. You pick which type of gun it is. Likewise, ground vehicles. You could pick like a grav tank or a speeder or whatever. They rejiggered the charts. So instead of having an entry that says communications and one that says navigation, one that says pilot, they just have one that says crew. And you get to pick which one of those you want for a cascade skill. And I think that might be an interesting way to go. I haven't tried it out, so I can't say with certainty. But I would be interested in giving that a try at some point. So thank you for that comment, Evil Jeff. All right, everyone. This is it for Feedback Friday. And as I've been thinking about this, I think that this might actually be the last Feedback Friday episode. Not just for October, but going forward. So when I initially made the podcast, my thought was that it would be a weekly podcast, like so many of the podcasts I listen to. And it morphed into twice a week. And so it's been just over a year. It's like actually a year and a week now as I record this exactly, since the podcast started. And I almost have 100 episodes under my belt, which is twice as much work as I was planning. And when I start the new podcast with my wife, that time has to come from somewhere. So I think what I'm going to do is pretty much like the first and third Wednesday of every month is going to be, normal content. And the second and fourth will be feedback episodes, or maybe it will be one a month or something like that. It depends how much feedback I have. If I get just a tiny little bit of feedback, it will just be a segment at the end of every episode. But if I get the amount of feedback that I've been getting, and as you can tell, I really like to address my feedback and talk about it for a while. But that's good. I think that this is a conversation. That is what makes quote unquote new media, although I've been listening to podcasts for like 15 years now. But I think that's what makes new media different from the radio or whatever, is that it's interactive. I can hear from you. I can talk back to you, and then you can call back and talk to me, and we can have this ongoing conversation. And it's not only between us, but it's between everyone that listens to it. And I think that the shows that don't do any kind of listener interaction, any kind of listener feedback, are poorer because of it. I think letting people do voice feedback or even just email feedback, whatever, adds a whole lot to the show. And so I'm definitely going to continue that. So there's that. Next week starts OSR October. So what I'm doing for this OSR October is I'm going back to what I consider the roots of the OSR as a movement, if you will, as opposed to as a play style or anything else. And that was the blogs. And it wasn't just the blogs where people were like, oh, this is what happened, and then this is what happened, and that stuff. Although those are great, like the Xenopus Archives, I think, great blog. Talks about, he got his hands on one of Dr. Holmes's early drafts not early drafts, actually. He's got the one that was submitted for the Holmes edition, and went through and compared it piece by piece. And he tells us other interesting facts, like the fact that Dr. Holmes was never paid for the Holmes edition. He did it for free. And I often wonder if maybe that's why we've never seen the Holmes edition on drive-through, republished by WotC, because maybe just the handshake way it was done, there's no contract or anything for the legal department to give a sign off on. I don't know. I'm just conjecturing wildly here. But yeah, so, stuff like that is fascinating. It's interesting. I'm not putting that down. I love that stuff. But I think what started the OSR as a movement is people going, yeah, not only do I play these old games, but this is how I play them. This is a house rule I use. This is how I handle wilderness travel. This is how I handle, nose picking. Hey, if you can pick locks, why not? So that's what I'm going to do for the 4 weeks of OSR October. I'm going to make what would be otherwise 4 blog posts, but they're going to be audio blogs, if you will, proposing alternate rules, house rules, that type of thing, for OSR style games. Yep, that's it. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, if that tickles your fancy, you're going to like the next 4 weeks. If not, maybe you want to come back in November where we discuss whether or not James is a Munchkin. So that is our ongoing contest. The episode will come out November 1st, where we say who the winner is. But if you want to be entered into that drawing, all you have to do is send us some feedback. It can be voice feedback. It can be written. That's it. Because if you do smoke signals, I can't read them. But send in some feedback and say, yes, James is a Munchkin, and you will be entered to win that prize that we don't know what it is. So currently I'm leaning towards a Munchkin die bag that Jason suggested, which is pretty cool. I like it. But if you have another suggestion, I'm definitely willing to hear it, and maybe we'll go with that one instead. But yeah, so if we're doing the show, if the show is airing on November 1st, that means we're recording it the Saturday before that, which I think is October 27th or something like that. So I need your entries the Friday before that Saturday. Yeah, so they'll all be there when we do the episode. Currently, we have 2 of them. I'm not going to say whether or not they say that James is a Munchkin or if they say that other thing that I don't know why anyone would say it. But hey, we're just having fun. We're not slamming James. He was on the episode. He laughs when we talk about this. So go ahead, please enter. Let us know if you think James is a Munchkin or not, and what you think we should be giving away. I've prattled on long enough. Let's wrap it up. Send us feedback. I love your feedback at feedback@decahedron.com. You can call the voice line at 562-774-2278. That's 562-RPG-CAST. That's a Google Voice line. You can leave up to 3 minutes there. If that's like a long distance call for you or whatever, like if you're calling from the UK or somewhere else, you can go to sayhi.chat/decahedron. Anchor, it's not Anchor anymore, but you know what I mean. They have this thing on their website. You can get to it that way, but sayhi.chat/decahedron works just as well. All that information is in the show notes with maybe even clickable links. They're also at www.decahedron.com, spelled to get decahedron with a K. Again, remember the play boards, www.decahedron.com/boards. All that information, again, in the show notes is in the outro music. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, happy gaming, happy life. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Decahedron RPG Cast. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a voice message by calling 562-774-2278. That's 562-RPG-CAST. Or by visiting sayhi.chat/decahedron. You can also email us at feedback@decahedron.com. Links are in the show notes. For more information, visit decahedron.com. Remember that Decahedron is spelled with a K. Music is by Kevin MacLeod. Logos by Design Cat. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep those dice rolling.